Welcome everyone. My name is Kara. I'm an avian care specialist here at the Alaska Raptor Center in Sitka, Alaska, where we do rehabilitations of birds of all different species. And you can find us on our website at alaska-raptor.org. And also you can go to our website there and you can find different memberships, also our gift shop. So I recommend you checking that out after this live feed. But so again, my name is Kara. I'm an avian care specialist here at the Raptor Center. And what my job is, I basically take care of all the birds here. So any of our rehabilitation birds that come in, I get to fix them up and send them back out into the wild. But I also work with birds like Karma here that are non-releasable birds. So sometimes birds come into our care and they have injuries that are too severe that they would be able to survive in the wild. So then they become educational ambassadors if we think they work well with people. And Karma here, a Swainson's hawk, she's a wonderful ambassador and works very well with people. But that kind of gets around talking about our topic today, which is migration. And I picked this topic today because Swainson's hawks have one of the most amazing migrations of all raptor species in North America. But before I start talking about her migration, I'm going to go over just a couple of different things about migration to kind of give you a little background on what migration actually is. And really what migration is just the regular seasonal movement between a specific pattern between breeding and wintering grounds. So it's just a pattern that birds follow when they go from their breeding grounds to their wintering grounds. So it's just following that pattern. And you might wonder why birds migrate. And there's basically two reasons. And the first one of them is food sources and also nesting locations. So birds are going to kind of go where their food goes. So if places up north are really cold and their food's going to go mostly down south, they're going to follow that food source down that way, and so that they're in a warmer climate. With that being said, about 75% of all North American birds migrate, and about 40% of the world species of birds migrate. So quite a few migratory birds there. And you might be wondering, when do birds migrate? And that's a great question. And they leave early in the summer and they return late winter, early fall. You're okay, baby? You're okay. Sorry, I just got to keep my eye on Karma here and make sure she's comfortable the entire time. So I'm just going to give her a little space right now because she looks like she might want to take a flight. So we're just going to give her a little bit of time real quick. You're okay, baby. You're okay. You're okay. There you go. Good girl. You're okay. So basically what happens is sometimes we have a couple of things. There's a lot going on in this facility and we have some people walking around, so Karma may just be a little distracted by what's going on. But she's fine. She's totally okay. I'm going to give her a little treat to make up for that. And we'll see if she takes that. Sometimes she gets a little shy in front of the camera. But I'm going to talk about the different types of migrations first before we talk about Swainson's hawk's migration. And there's about 4 different types of migrations. One of them being the resident birds. Oh, there we go. So that little shakeout right there that Karma just did means she's okay. Everything's good. She's just rearranging her feathers after that little tumble she took. So she's doing okay. But the first thing is the resident birds. So these are your backyard birds. And they're going to be staying primarily in the same location. They might go a couple of miles here and there, but these are your backyard birds like doves, pigeons, things like that are going to stay at their same location year round. Other than that, there's short distance migratory birds that travel maybe just down a mountainside if it's very cold, or just to get to different elevation. And a really good example of this bird is the ruby-crowned kinglet. And they just go up and down the mountain depending on the severity of the weather and it being cold. We do have another kind of migratory bird or types of migration. This is the nomadic bird. And what this is birds that just basically follow their food pattern around. So like bald eagles here in Southeast Alaska, they are nomadic because they don't necessarily leave the state, they just kind of follow the food source around. So they might follow the food source to Haines and then hang out at Haines for a little bit, which is a town in Southeast Alaska, and then they might move somewhere else where the food is, but they have a nesting site that they always return to. So bald eagles here in Southeast Alaska are what we call nomadic migration. And the last one I want to talk about is long distance migration. And this is the kind of migration that Karma has. And Karma can go all the way from up here in the interior of Alaska, all the way down to Argentina, which is in Central and South America. So that is a good example of a bird that travels far is the Swainson's hawk. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about that. So the Swainson's hawks actually live primarily in the western part of the United States. So if you're on the East Coast, like New York, North Carolina, you're not going to see many Swainson's hawks over that direction. You're going to mainly see them Great Plains, areas like that in California, and that's where they are in the summer. So they breed there in the summer, and then they migrate all the way down to Argentina and Central America in the autumn, around the autumns when they start their two-month journey down to Central and South America. So I just can't even fathom that I'm leaving, doing that for 2 months. So then by early June, they've arrived back into the lower 48, into the United States, and that is then where they start their breeding. So the Swainson's hawks, when they migrate, they actually migrate on very minimal food. So when Swainson's hawks are breeding and taking care of their young, they actually eat the 3 R's. They eat rabbits, rodents, and reptiles. And this is so they can pack on calories to feed their young while they're up here in North America. But then when they transition to migration, they actually start eating more insects, grasshoppers, things like that. They're actually known as the grasshopper hawk. So what they do on their migration down there, they're able to catch that out of the air, so it saves them a lot of time. Another neat fact about migration is most birds migrate at night because there's not many predators. But however, the Swainson's hawks actually have to migrate during the day because they don't get as much, their wings aren't as adapted well for migration as other birds. So they have to ride the thermals, and so that's why they travel mostly during the day, is because they need to ride those thermals that take them down to the lower part of the world. So Swainson's hawks during this time of migration actually form really large groups called kettles, and they go all the way in one area together, and they can be seen in thousands and thousands. So if you're in the western part of the United States during this migration time, you may be able to see Swainson's hawks by the thousands migrating, which is really neat. So if a Swainson's hawk like Karma were to be up here in interior of Alaska, migrate down to Central South America and return, that could be a 12,000-mile trip, which is actually, it's just mind-blowing. I just can't imagine traveling that far and surviving, so it's just really neat. But one thing is that pesticides down in Argentina decreased the numbers of Swainson's hawks by the time they were returning to the United States, because that is a poison they were using on insects. However, since then, down in Argentina, all that stuff has been banned, and the Swainson's hawk population have returned. You want that? You want that? There you go.
And someone asked how long Karma has been with us.
That's a great question. So I didn't tell about Karma's story. I apologize. I get a little nervous when I start. But Karma has been with this center since 2005. So if you do the math, that's 15 years. And she came to us as an adult. So just kind of gives you an example that birds in human care thrive. They do really well. We believe that Karma can live to be in her 20s or 30s because she's under our care. She came to us from actually Utah, where she was struck by a car there. We think she was probably chasing some food and got struck by a car, and her left wing actually had to be partially amputated. We did not do her rehabilitation here at the Raptor Center. It was done in Utah. However, we wanted a Swainson's hawk for our education birds so they could educate about her species in the state of Alaska. Great question, though. Have any more questions, or just keep going? You going? Okay. So you might be wondering, well, what do you guys do with all the birds that migrate here at the Raptor Center? And that's an excellent question. Karma, since she migrates the most, we have to give her the most attention as far as setting her up for success because of her migration. So what Karma will do is during this early spring, late summer, she'll start getting a little squirrely, and so we have to actually feed her more because she's burning so many calories from getting ready to migrate. So we actually feed her more. We give her a lot of extra room. We'll actually put her in different enclosures throughout the day so that she has more room to move around and can exercise. We also give all of our migratory birds here heat lamps in the winter. If it does get too cold, we will turn on their heat lamps. And from there, you okay, baby? You turn around? Okay. And from there, if it does get into the 30s or 40s or 20s or so, we will bring some of our bird species in that would migrate. But they do have a little bit more of a, they are a little bit more active during that time, but we just take the precautions of exercising them more, feeding them more if needed, and that also goes into what about rehabilitation birds, if they are on a journey, what do we do with them? And if they come into our center, when they're on their migration, we make them a priority. We get them in and out as fast as we can. If there is a severe injury, we will have to hold them over until the next migration. However, that doesn't happen very often. So that was my spiel about migration and Swainson Hawk's migration, and a little bit about Karma. So if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them.
Someone did ask if penguins migrate.
Do penguins migrate? Depending on the species. You know, I'm sorry, I'm not a penguin expert. I apologize, but there are whole different species of penguins, and so I'm not quite sure about that, and I do apologize for not knowing that answer.
How many birds do we have as residents here at the center, and how many do we have going through rehabilitation at the moment?
Great question. So how many birds do we have here at the Raptor Center as residents, and how many are going through rehabilitation? And here at the Raptor Center, Raptors-in-Residence, we have about 25 birds that stay here year-round with us. And that's because of some injury that they sustained in the wild, and they just work well with us now so that they can be educational ambassadors. And then we have our rehabilitation birds that are completely separate. We don't intermix the two because we want to keep those birds as wild as possible. And we have, I would say, about 30 to 40 going through rehabilitation right now.
Who is your favorite resident?
Who is my favorite resident? Well, this one you're looking at right here is one of them. I've been working with Karma ever since I started about 4 years ago, and she's just been a joy. We've come a long way together. I've taught her some new behaviors, and I think she's taught me some new behaviors too. So I'm just very lucky to get to work with her, but I also like working with the eagles, but hawks especially are my favorite species to work with.
And if any of you folks have any questions, feel free to ask, and we're happy to answer them.
Okay, baby.
Someone did ask where they can learn more about the center and if they can donate.
Yeah, great question. So if you want to learn more about our center, you can always visit us at AlaskaRaptor.org. It'll take you to our gift shop, our membership pages, our bios about our birds, volunteer opportunities, and we're also on all other social media platforms, Instagram, and you're on Facebook, and Twitter as well, and YouTube. And TikTok.
And someone
all
asked
platforms.
if we ever see bald eagles.
Do we ever see bald eagles? We do. That is our #1 patient we get here at the Raptor Center are bald eagles. And some of the reasons we get bald eagles in, we get about 75% of the reasons we see bald eagles are from injuries that are kind of man-caused. And it couldn't, sometimes it's not deliberate, like not gunshots, but it is gunshots sometimes, but it could be from power line injuries, poison, things like that.
And we had someone mention that they're actually a wildlife rehabber in their state, and they just recently released 3 Swainson hawks.
Awesome, very cool. Well, Swainson hawks to me are one of the most just mind-blowing creatures that they can go so far. So getting to see one of them back in the wild would be a highlight for me. So that's really cool you got to do that. Wonderful.
Do we have any interesting cases right now?
Do we have any interesting cases right now? You know what, that is a great question. Right now, the only thing we have in our intensive care unit is a kinglet, or I'm sorry, a flicker right now. And we have that in there, and just came in with a broken wing. So we're rehabilitating that bird right now. And then as far as our eagles go, I'm trying to think of a couple of kind of interesting stories we might have gotten in the last couple.
We did have the Queen Charlottes.
Yeah, so we did get a Queen Charlotte's goshawk in, which is kind of a rare species of goshawk here in Alaska. And that bird was unfortunately shot. And so that is an endangered bird. It's very illegal to shoot birds. If you do have a problem with hawks or any sort of raptor getting into chicken coops, you can always give us a call. We can give you tips to help with that instead of using other means.
And then we had 2 people ask, what is Karma?
What is Karma? So Karma is a Swainson's hawk. You can find these guys on the west side of the United States. So you're going to find them mainly in the Great Plains. They like to live in grasslands, and one of their favorite traits is that they actually follow lawnmowers where all the insects will jump up and they'll catch those insects because they feed mostly on insects more than anything else. But we do feed her mostly rat here at the Raptor Center because Karma has expressed to us that she does not like grasshoppers. We've put grasshoppers galore in her enclosure and she just doesn't know what to do. So we just stick mostly with rats and mice with her diet, but she's just fine with that. She eats just fine.
Do hummingbirds migrate, and do we see any here at the center?
Hummingbirds do migrate. They are a migratory bird. I think they are part of the short distance migratory birds. And we do see them here at the center. We usually get them from maybe window strikes or things like that. But we're usually able to rehabilitate them and get them back into the wild pretty quickly. And they're one of my favorite species to take care of just because they're so tiny. And we get to feed them with syringes, and they just lap it out with their tongue in the syringe, and it's the cutest thing you've ever seen.
Do eagles and hawks eat the same diet?
Do eagles and hawks eat the same diet? That's a great question. Well, eagles are opportunistic hunters, so they're going to hunt when something arises to hunt. But if there's something a little bit more easy to eat, like roadkill or dead salmon, they're going to go after that instead because they're more scavengers than they are actual hunters. But they do eat the reptiles, rabbits, and rodents. Karma eats reptiles, rodents, but not fish. He's not a fish eater, unlike eagles. So they have a similar diet, but it is a little bit different.
Do we have any owls here at the center, and if so, what kind?
Do we have any owls here at the center, and if so, what kind? We have quite an abundance of owls here. We have 2 small northern saw-whet owls that are about this big, and they're full grown when they're that big. We also have an eastern screech owl. We have 2 great horned owls, a great gray owl, and everyone's favorite cake, our snowy owl. Oh, and I can't forget Glaucus, our barred owl.
How much smaller is Karma compared to an eagle?
How much smaller is Karma compared to eagle? That's a great question. So with Karma only weighs about 2 pounds. And in the background here, you can kind of see their silhouettes. And we don't have a Swainson's hawk up here, but they're about the same size as the red-tailed hawk. So you can see that size difference between the bald eagle up there and the red-tailed hawk that's right behind me. Karma weighs about 2 to 3 pounds at a time. However, an eagle weighs it can range from about 10 to 15. So they've got a pretty good weight on them.
And then someone asks where we're located.
Where are we located? Oh, we're located on the beautiful island of Baranof in Alaska. Sitka, Alaska is where we are. We are off, where are we? Sawmill Creek in Alaska, in Sitka. So, great question.
Do hawks like Karma use the same migratory route each year?
Do hawks like Karma use the same migratory route each year? Yes, they do. I did a lot of research before I did this talk about, how they know and how they can get down there. And it's baffling to scientists and to everyone of how they know where to get the same way. But yes, they do use the same pattern, but they just use the sun, the moon, the stars, and the thermals to help them get there. But yes, they use the same pattern.
What brought you to the Raptor Center?
What brought me to the Raptor Center? So I've been with ARC for almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in January. And I just really wanted to work with birds of prey in Alaska. I've worked with birds of prey for about going on 10 years, and Alaska just called my name. So I'm glad to be here, glad to work with birds like Karma and be able to see the other species get back into the wild where they belong.
And someone asked, why do they call them grasshopper hawks?
Yeah, why do they call them grasshopper hawks? Great question. That's just because these guys eat grasshoppers. That's one of their main food sources when they're migrating is insects. It's just faster for them to catch those insects, and it's more kind of protein, more bang for your buck as far as food goes. But they will roost. They actually roost at night on fence poles and things like that in different parts of their migratory pattern.
What's your favorite bird you've released here at the center?
What is my favorite bird we've released at the center? I would say we had a Harlan's red-tailed hawk we named Moose because it was eating moose carcass in Anchorage. And we rehabilitated that bird for a couple of months, and when we released Moose, he flew around kind of above our heads, and it was just a really neat experience to get to see him circle around and kind of, show off before he went back into the wild. So that was my favorite release for sure.
What's the hardest part about training a bird like Karma?
What is the hardest part about training a bird like Karma? That is an excellent question. What I would say is these birds are predatory birds, but they also can be prey species. So sometimes when we work with them, they don't view us as a friend. They might view us as a predator. So it's just why I do a lot of work with Karma. I make sure I give her good food and just really work with her to get her to know that I'm good, I mean good things. So it's just a little hard when you have had a bird that's been out in the wild and exposed to the wild, and then try to train them to be ambassadors, but it is very possible, and Karma is a great example of one of those ambassadors.
Are Swainson hawks susceptible to lead poisoning from spent ammunition like other raptors?
Yes, so they would be. So if any type of animal were to eat, or especially bird were to eat lead that had been in an animal, it is going to poison them. We have had a few of those cases since I've worked here at the Raptor Center, and it is very, very heartbreaking. So be a responsible hunter, please, and use the right ammunition that doesn't hurt these guys in the wild.
Are we open to the public?
Are we open to the public? We are. It is by appointment only. We're open Tuesday through Friday. And sorry, I had to check with my guys, check with Richard over there. So we're open Tuesday through Friday, and you have to make an appointment, but you can simply do that by going online or giving us a call. Oh, AlaskaRaptor.org. Live streams are always fun.
What is the hardest part about working with birds in the clinic?
What is the hardest part about working with birds in the clinic? So I would say the hardest part is these birds don't know we're trying to help them. They think we're trying to abduct them and do strange things to them, which we are, but they don't know that in the end we're trying to help them. So sometimes if we're trying to feed a bird and it's just not taking it, it's just a little disheartening that sometimes we can't get that message across to the bird that, hey, we are trying to help you, we're not trying to hurt you.
What's your favorite species of bird?
What is my favorite species of bird? I would say my favorite species altogether are hawks, specifically Harris hawks. I just really enjoy Harris hawks because they're very social creatures. Unlike most birds of prey that are solitary, Harris hawks and even Swainson's hawks at times get to be social. And so it's just neat to work with the Harris hawks because they like to be social and they like to be with you. So I think that's pretty cool.
Does the center offer any volunteer opportunities?
Does the center offer any volunteer opportunities? We do, and I'm the volunteer coordinator. So, you can find my email online on our website, AlaskaRaptor.org. Just shoot me an email if you're local, if you're out of town and want to come volunteer with us and get close up with some of these magnificent birds and a great staff. You good? You good? Yeah, there you go.
Does Karma have a favorite food?
Does Karma have a favorite food? Well, I would say that Karma's favorite food is probably rat and mouse. We do try to give our birds a lot of variety, a lot of different types of food so that they don't get bored of the same thing. With Karma though, she's a very particular bird and just likes rat. She won't really eat anything else. We do try to provide her with chicken, red meat from bears or deer, but she just doesn't like it. But we do give her that opportunity to eat it just in case. And like I was saying about them being the grasshopper hawk, is that normally these birds eat a lot of grasshoppers and other insects. However, Karma has always expressed to us that she does not like the grasshoppers, but that would be their diet right now, especially our grasshoppers.
What are some good reading materials to look into for migration?
Ooh, good reading materials to look into migration. All About Birds is great. Shibley's. Let me think of some other things. Just any scientific articles out there that are, that have sources that just aren't, just somebody writing something. But I'm trying to think of some other ones. Someone just said that you should be on National Geographic. I should be on National Geographic. Good. Can I talk about that? Okay, so I said somebody said we should be on National Geographic. Well, that is kind of funny because we do have a National Nat Geo season called Alaska Animal Rescue out on Disney Plus right now, as well as other couple of places. And it's just a show about myself and coworkers, and we go out and rescue bald eagles and get them back out in the wild. So I highly recommend if you have Disney Plus or some other platforms it might be on. It's called Alaska Animal Rescue. It's a Nat Geo wild show.
And then someone asked, they remember you doing hood training with Karma.
Yeah.
How has that been going? And what is hood training? If you don't mind?
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking about Karma's hood training. Karma is a wonderful bird at hood training. She's done fantastic. Right now with her on this perch, she probably wouldn't let me do it because she's not on my glove. And that might be a little scary for her if I were to go up to her. But her hood training it went well. So what basically, you might be wondering what a hood is. If you've seen pictures, you may have seen falcons, hawks, eagles with what looks like kind of just a little hat on their head and it covers their eyes. And I actually have my hood right, here we go. You're okay, Karma? Okay. So this right here is a falconry hood, and this is what Karma wears on her head. And what it does is it basically just helps to keep the bird calm and relaxed. So a bird takes most of their sensories in through their eyes, and so by putting this on Karma's head, it just keeps her relaxed. She's a very good bird at doing education and going places, and she loves to be out in the sun. But when we try to take her there, she gets a little nervous because of all of her surroundings. So we simply put that hood on her head so she's not scared, and then we're able to take her all around. So it just works out great.
Someone asked if the hood is like a sensory deprivation chamber.
Yes, and I mean that's basically what it is. It's sensory deprivation, so she's not having to take all that through her eyes and through her eyes, because raptors really process everything with their eyesight. So
how sharp are those talons?
How sharp are those talons? Sharp enough that I don't like getting touched by them. With an eagle, we always say that an eagle could pierce through a cookie sheet. Karma's got a pretty strong grip as well. They're very strong. I have been a couple of times been greeted by the foot of these birds, but it's always something that I do, not something that they do.
Is there any type of enrichment that Karma likes to do?
Is there any type of enrichment that Karma likes to do? Well, Karma really likes whole prey. She really likes when we feed her whole prey, because she really likes to, because our birds are so spoiled here at the Raptor Center and they're fed so well, they get to be picky about what they eat. So with Karma, what we'll do is we'll give her a full rodent, and she'll kind of eat what she wants and leaves the rest. We'll also take Karma on walks around our property. We'll just put her in the tree, let her hang out there for 30 minutes or so, and just kind of be around so she's not completely by herself. But yeah, so we just take her on walks. We give her paper enrichment to shred up. But I would say that most of her enrichment is through training and her different food options.
Do we know Karma's wingspan?
Do we know Karma's wingspan? It would be about 4 or 5-ish feet.
About 40 inches to 50 inches.
40 inches to 50 inches. Let's go with that one. Oh my goodness. We got any more questions?
Do you love your job?
Do I love my job? I mean, look at me. I get to do this and hang out with her and save birds every day. So yes, I absolutely love my job. It's a blessing that I get to do this and wake up every morning and do this. Well, I appreciate all of you tuning in to this live stream about migration and Swainson talks. Again, if you want to donate or if you want to just check out our website, you can go to AlaskaRaptor.org. Check us out on other social media platforms on Instagram and Twitter. And we're a 501c3 nonprofit, meaning that all of our donations come from people just like you. So we appreciate that. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.